From WHYY, it is Hittin season. Hey there, podcast pals. I'm John Stolnis from The Good Phight. You can follow me on X and Blue Sky at John Stolnis. Coming up, we're going to do a little vibes check heading into 2026. Now that the calendar has flipped, how are we feeling about these Phils? It's been a relatively quiet offseason. There are some rumors that have been jingling and jangling over the weekend, but can we really trust them? Bo Bichette, I'm not so sure. We'll talk about that. What does it mean for JT Realmuto? The Phillies finally bring Don Mattingly on board. For my taste, 40 years too late, but he's going to try and make an impact as the team's new bench coach. And once again, the Phillies are unable, or maybe in this case unwilling, to sign one of the top Japanese players that had to have their posting dates come and go. And so the top Japanese players we were thinking might come to Philadelphia, could come to Philadelphia. Wishing on a star, not coming to Philadelphia. We'll talk about all that coming up here on this edition of the show. On the round table, Justin Klugh and Liz Roscher here. Liz, of course, is the editor of SABR's Baseball Research Journal, which is just out. She'll tell you in just a second how you can get a hold of one of those. Follow her on Twitter and Blue Sky, X and Blue Sky at Liz Roscher. Liz, how you doing? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, too. I started the year very well by finding a solid source for my favorite office supplies. Anyone who loves office supplies will know how important that is to start a year correctly. But yeah, I'm great. Looking forward to baseball eventually happening. It's not right now, so my interest is starting to wane.
Well, not in
Come
talking
think of
about
it.
Not in talking about the Phillies and
no, I'll definitely
podcasting
talk about
the
how not interested I am.
Now, that's a curious strategy for us, I think, moving forward.
Oh, really? Because I feel like we've been doing that for kind of a while.
I think
that's what the first 3 to 4 years of the show was.
Well, that's true. I suppose there's a fair amount, a nugget of truth in that. All right, Justin Klugh also here, joining us from Baseball Prospectus, also hosts a couple of our podcasts over at the Hittin Season Patreon, Absolutely Hammered and The Dirty Inning. You can follow him on Blue Sky at Justin Klugh. And Justin, that book release date is growing ever closer. Summer of the Cheap Wieners, it is almost here, friends.
Yes, it is. Out in February, very soon. I'll be holding it in my hands. Kind of messed up, really. But what I wanted to mention was there's this quote circulating that fell out of Philadelphia sports talk radio about JT Realmuto and the ongoing the contract negotiations and everything. And the quote was basically saying, hey, his market is what it is, and it's time for him to stop pretending it's not, and that it's going to change in some big dramatic way, and he needs to just accept that his market is what it is and that he's going to have to deal with it. And I just wanted to say, hey, back off. Name one time JT Realmuto has denied reality. Name one time he looked straight facts in the face and said, no, I will not. It's never happened. So I don't think you can make that kind of accusation publicly.
That's right. Well, we're going to take a little bit more of a dive. We talked a lot about JT last week on the podcast, and obviously still has not signed here in Philadelphia. But another rumor came down over the weekend we'll get to in just a second that could impact that market. But let's start off with the news of the day. We are recording here on Monday and also here on Monday. It became official what everyone had long been expecting. Don Mattingly will join the Phillies as the team's bench coach. He replaces Mike Calitri, who has moved to a different position here in the organization. He's the team's major league field coordinator. Mattingly spent the last 3 years as the Blue Jays bench coach. He came that close to winning his first ever World Series in any capacity, but after that near miss, chose not to return. He was exploring other opportunities.
And came here.
Here's another opportunity.
Interesting.
Yeah, for Don
Really?
Mattingly going from the AL pennant winners, who are a microscopic inches away of numerous times in Game 7 of winning the World Series. But these Rob Thompson and Don Mattingly worked together in the Yankees organization. They were never on the same major league coaching side of things at the same time, but Thompson succeeded Mattingly as the team's bench coach in 2008 after Mattingly went over to become Joe Torre's hitting coach with the Dodgers. In addition to his work as a bench coach and hitting coach between the Bronx and LA, the now 64-year-old Mattingly has spent 5 years managing the Dodgers and another 7 managing the Marlins. So yes, an old face, a familiar face from his time in Miami. coming back to the National League East and working with Rob Thomson. I mean, Justin, I think we all knew this was coming. This was a long suspected that this was coming. Preston Mattingly is the team's general manager, so you got the father-son connection here. I don't want to overstate what Mattingly is going to bring to the table, how he's going to help. The hope is that he's at least another seasoned ear in Rob Thomson, another seasoned voice in Rob Thompson's ear, or maybe another ear for Rob Thomson. I don't know how this relationship is going to work, but I think it's a good addition. I think it's a valuable addition. I don't want to overplay it. I don't want to overstate that it's a huge addition for the Phillies, but I think having another voice in Rob Thompson's ear during games, making these decisions, bullpen stuff, all that stuff, it's going to be good to have a guy with this much experience, I think, in the dugout.
I did forget about this happening because, well, I literally forgot. Since it was initially reported, they were like, yeah, he's in talks and it's basically going to happen. Everybody ID'd the nepotism connection with his son and everything. It was like, yeah, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. And you're like, oh, okay. And then a couple weeks went by, and then today I just got a text from somebody in all caps that said Don Mattingly. And I was like, okay, well, the odds that this is something other than him being hired to be the bench coach are probably pretty small. So that was me remembering, oh, right, they were talking about this. Secondly, wow, I had 7 years in Miami. He spent 7 years.
Yeah, it seems I didn't realize it was that long either.
In my head, I would have guessed like 3 years. Wow. Thirdly, what is the importance here of a bench coach? And I think, there is important things that a bench coach does in general, but the hiring of a bench coach isn't always a super interesting or impactful thing. However, we're throwing the hitting aspect of Mattingly's expertise into this as well. And you kind of rattled through a couple of career milestones here, but I just wanted to add that MLB Trade Rumors lists his position with the Blue Jays actually had the title offensive coordinator, which I've never heard in a baseball capacity before.
No.
Additionally,
those are two dirty words in Philadelphia right now.
I know,
together. That's not.
You guys want to talk about something else for a second?
Let's talk about offensive coordinator on the Phillies podcast. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Talk about that.
But I bring that up because his specialty is being a hitting instructor. He's going to serve as like bench coach, but his specialty is being a hitting instructor, and he's had a lot of success in that regard with working with players on hitting. So what I'm asking is this a supplement to the already highly tiered Kevin Long expertise, or is this, well, maybe this is the year that by the All-Star break, the Phillies aren't hitting, somebody's going. There's got to be somebody who's there that can fill a similar role. Like, is this Kevin Long's backup essentially, or is it his partner? I don't know. Like, is this here? I think this has a lot to do with that. And yeah, I'm sure in most it is both in a lot of ways. But I think that's just an extra dimension to this. It's not just like, oh, they hired a new bench coach because they needed one. They're like, no, we need a bench coach, but we also want a guy who can contribute on the offensive side as well, and has worked with hitters and is known for his work with hitters. So ultimately, I think that's a good thing, but most of the impact of this is going to be, behind the scenes.
No, I think that's definitely true. And I think this was a conscious decision that the Phillies made, Liz, to move on from this Mike Calitri, who had the job before, who, if you'd have given me 100 guesses in the middle of last season, who is the Phillies bench coach, and you didn't allow me the internet, I could have never come up with the name Mike Calitri. So you never really heard his name mentioned. You heard about Kevin Long and Caleb Cottom and of course Rob Thompson. Those are the three guys, Rob Thompson, the three guys that ran the team. But a bench coach is supposed to be the manager's right-hand man. Like they're second in command. They're an advisor. They offer in-game tactical support. They're responsible for game planning, player development. They obviously step in as manager if needed. They relay scouting reports to players. They deal with a lot of the day-to-day logistics, prepare the team for opponents. And so there's a lot that the bench coach is supposed to be doing, is supposed to be helping out with. And so that's where you have a guy, Liz, who maybe as a former manager, a longtime manager, had the job and has done this job in Toronto the last 3 years to obviously great success in 2025. I do think it's more to give Rob Thomson help with some of these other areas that maybe there have been some shortcomings there. Maybe they weren't getting enough from Kalitri in doing some of these things, or it might not be anything Kalitri was doing wrong. It just might be an area where they
experience.
Getting that experience, getting some more knowledge. Like, he's got a bunch of games, bunch of big game experience in his background that he can lean back on and revert back to for advice.
Yeah, like, this is a no-brainer hire for a lot of reasons. He could be the backup to Kevin Long, but I'm surprised people aren't looking at him as the backup to Rob Thompson.
That's
like, there were times this season that we thought maybe this is it, or over, the early off season before anything happened, we thought, is this it? Maybe it is, maybe it should be. And so I think Mattingly is there to serve as a backup for almost everyone in a lot of ways. He's there to serve as a backup. And Mattingly is not unused to being the person who is blamed for things. He's like a Swiss Army knife of a coach you can have, because he's done so much. Like a handful of other teams have coaches who are in the Hall of Fame or who have been considered for the Hall of Fame. It's been a while since the Phillies have had one. I'm thinking back to the days of Davey Lopes.
Rob Thompson's in the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. Just for the
You
record.
are correct. You are correct. I'm very sorry. I apologize to Rob Thompson and the country of Canada. But
it's a whole country's Hall of Fame.
I know. It is a whole country. It's very
huge
important.
country, too.
Yeah, Canadians care very much about baseball. What was I saying before we took a Swiss Army knife of a coach? And I think they looked for a veteran like him specifically because they need someone to talk to Bryce Harper. I think Kyle Schwarber is willing to take advice from anybody. He knows what he's doing. He's willing to hear suggestions. JT Realmuto just seems a real stick to himself kind of guy, but he doesn't seem like the guy who's going to, eschew coaching. That's not science. He will definitely not issue coaching. But Harper's a different story. We all see him being very headstrong, being very tunnel vision. And I think having a guy like Mattingly around who has been through a lot of things in baseball, a lot of things in coaching, it'll be helpful to have someone there that Harper feels is like a true veteran speaking to him as a veteran hitter. Because that's not something I think they have. They have a lot of young guys that are doing great things on the coaching staff, but if they identify that Harper needs a little bit more, this is that. And it's a lot to hire a coach for one guy, and that's not what they're doing. I think Mattingly is going to hopefully improve things across the board. But I think Harper will listen to Don Mattingly. Don't you?
I do. I think Mattingly is going to be very careful not to step on Kevin Long's toes, too.
Of course.
Though.
But, I'm thinking Harper definitely, like, if they're both there, it's not like Harper's going to ignore Kevin Long. But, if they're in the cage and Mattingly's there, that's kind of what the hitting coaches do. They watch the guys hit. They watch video of them hit. Justin, you're smiling. What is happening?
Oh, I was just thinking, this has nothing. It's just related only tangentially in that I was just reading about in 1967, Gene Mauch's batting coach, right-hand man, was Don Hoke, who was known for going down to the batting cages and like antagonizing the hitters so badly that they like would want to get in a fist fight with him. So hopefully Mattingly's approach is, different from that.
I love that.
That's funny. It's just, Justin's giggling, and it's of course a reference to the 1960s or whatever about another bench managerial coach. And I love it. I just love it. This is, you don't find that.
I bet you have that stuff to just pull.
It's tremendous. Well, one of the other things that the baseball writing universe, and by that I mean John Heyman, is mentioning with regard to Don Mattingly is
wait. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's one guy.
I want to frame this the way it needs to be framed.
Okay.
John Heyman got a note from his boss, Scott Boras, to add an extra suitor to the rumors about Bo Bichette, and he chose the Phillies. That's what
I was getting to. Exactly right.
No, I was just framing it that way. Like it's sorry. Go ahead.
John Heyman reported after the Mattingly news came out on Monday morning. He says Mattingly has terrific long-standing relationships with Phillies manager Rob Thompson. He is also said to have an excellent relationship with star free agent Bo Bichette. Now, I'm going to pause here for a moment.
He is also said.
Bo Bichette, known for hating everyone, likes Don Mattingly. That's the impression that this is supposed to leave. Like, Bo Bichette, so mercurial and so unreachable. And yet, Don Mattingly himself seems to have an excellent relationship with him. Unlike
Bo
most
Bichette
other coaches. So
Bo Bichette's definitely not a guy with pretty soft hair and a baby face and like what appears to be an affable demeanor towards everybody.
It kind of sounds like you're describing someone else who's still currently on the Phillies that they do not want to acquire.
Right. Now, John Heyman does say, in quotes, although it is fair, in parentheses, although it is fair to say that coaches and managers don't usually
come on, John.
nine-figure free agent signings. So that caveat in place.
Kevin
John
Long, Kyle Schwarber.
I hate him so much. I hate John Heyman, man.
We're connecting dots. We're just connecting dots. We're trying to link them together here.
Listeners, please imagine the words I'd be saying if we weren't a clean podcast.
That's right. Clean podcast.
Good Lord.
Friend. That's right. Over the weekend, Heyman also more directly linked the Phillies. And this is what Justin was talking about, directly linking the Phillies to Bo Bichette, saying the Phillies are among a number of big market teams to have interest in Bo Bichette, an ultra young 27 years old free agent. The Yankees, the Cubs, the Dodgers, the Red Sox, and the incumbent Jays, too. Bichette is the only player to hit 300 versus fastballs, breaking balls, and also change up splits. That's a weird stat to throw in at the end of that, but I like it. I mean, it's a good number, but like that's the one we're highlighting. Listen, John Heyman's the one who first reported Bryce Harper to the Phillies, and he'll always have that. He'll always have that in his satchel, and he does break some news. He is first on some guys sometimes, but like you intimated a second ago, I think we've listen, friends. We've done this dance a lot of times before with these guys. Okay, we know.
You sat backwards on a chair. Hey, gang.
I'm leaning forward towards the camera. For those of you watching on the WHYY YouTube stream, this is not.
John's about to accuse us of watering down his liquor.
You're grounded, sir.
I drank it anyway. This very. Most clearly is, well, I'm going to ask you, it's one of two things, Liz, and let me throw this your way first. Is this coming from the agent trying to drum up a market for Bo Bichette, or is it coming from the Phillies trying to get JT Realmuto to stop waiting out the market and actually re-sign with the team? What do you think is the more likely scenario here?
My instinct when I saw this was that it was about the domino effect to get Realmuto to sign, because there, in no world did I see them actually doing this. But if they're interested in Bichette, they would not be signing Realmuto. You know, they would be going with Marchand. They would not have enough money to pay him. So, I mean, that's the only thing I can think, other than, I mean, but I also don't know why. I mean, it's not the Phillies. It would have to come from Boris, but I don't know if the Phillies would work with Boris like that, or if Bryce Harper is there telling Scott Boras, hey, I'd really like my good friend JT Realmuto to sign back here. Could you help me? I don't think that happened. But I also don't know otherwise why this would be happening.
Well, let me just say, we're saying Scott Boras, but Bo Bichette's agent is Vayner Sports. He's not represented by Scott Boras here. So just FYI.
I threw Boris out there. Yeah. I knew it.
I figured it was Boris, man. I didn't look it up. I'm at fault.
It's a Boris-y thing to do, Justin.
Yeah. And I know you went to Liz first to punish me for cutting you off at the beginning there, and I apologize for that.
My retribution is swift. And
I know.
That's right.
I had an extra cup of coffee today, and the words are just coming out of my mouth, but I'm not able to stop them. Well, look. He's not playing shortstop unless Trey Turner's ready to go to second, or you trade Bryson Stott and put Bo Bichette at second, or you trade Alec Bohm and put Bo Bichette at third, or you trade Bohm, put Stott at third, and put Bo Bichette at second. There's ways to do this, and it's just kind of, this acquisition would create I think probably the changed enough Phillies that people actually, a group of people who watch the Phillies want to see, because it would require a lot of moving and different things happening. And frankly, I'm all for it, man. He's 27, right? He has also proven himself to be a very, very good baseball player. And there's a reason there's a line of teams who are showing interest in him. Doesn't really have the arm for third base. So I would honestly be like, this is your opportunity to trade Alec Bohm, you know?
Yeah.
And frankly, I kind of compared him to, based on your description of his like profile, comparing him to Castellanos is kind of easy. It's even easier when you realize he swings at bad pitches a lot in the same way that Castellanos does. The difference is he hits them. He is one of, as Phillies Nation was writing, one of the best bad ball hitters in baseball, which kind of adds up with this team. It'd be nice to see one of these guys who swings at everything and then makes contact, because Adolis Garcia is going to be whooshing his way through a lot of at-bats, doing the same thing and not hitting the ball. He hits for contact with lots of doubles. He doesn't hit lots of home runs like a couple other guys in this lineup. He hits lots of doubles, which is what we wanted to see from a couple different guys. I don't want to sell Alec Bohm short. He hits a lot of doubles too. He has hit a lot of doubles in his life, Alec Bohm. And honestly, I almost wrote down, he's like Alec Bohm if Alec Bohm had become an all-star. Alec Bohm is an all-star. So, you know, that's not really a fair thing to say. You can't, no, it's objectively true. You can't argue that. All-star Alec Bohm, it exists. My point being, this would improve the team and would be a cool thing to see.
Bo Bichette to the Phillies would be a perfect addition. He would absolutely be a perfect addition to this lineup. He would provide the type of bat behind Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber in the lineup that you actually had to account for. He had big home runs in the World Series. After missing the last couple months of the last month and a half of the regular season, came back late in the playoffs and made an impact, even though he was pretty seriously injured, playing a different position. I mean, the guy knows how to play. He had a horrible season. I think it was 2 seasons ago, or maybe it was even in 2024, where he was one of the worst hitters in baseball and overcame that and was a tremendous player for the Blue Jays last year. And so bringing him to Philadelphia would be tremendous. He would be the perfect addition. It ain't gonna happen. Not even because you would have to trade Alec Bohm or you'd have to move some different pieces around, because I think the Phillies could do that. It's the money. It's the money, sillies. It's not going to happen because of the money. Even if he's going to make a $30 million a year contract, which will send the Phillies way over the third luxury tax threshold, which means you're paying him almost like $60 million a year if you're going over that threshold. Because even if you trade Alec Bohm, you're getting rid of $10 million. You're not. The Phillies are going to have to just release Nick Castellanos. No one wants him. So you're going to have to eat that money. You're going to have to pay Taijuan. I keep seeing people online, you just, get rid of Castellanos and get rid of Taijuan Walker and you free up all this money. You don't sign JT Realmuto. No, you're not freeing up the Castellanos Walker money. Maybe $5 million of it. If you can put some chloroform over another GM's face and convince him that he actually traded for Nick Castellanos and took all but $5 million and let us take $5 million of the contract. That's just, it's not going to happen.
That's how they say get rid of. It's so easy to do.
Right. Well,
imagine if players got to not keep their money if you cut them, like teams would be cutting players nonstop.
Which is why the PA fought to not do, that's why the things happen the way they are, because that's kind of wrong. There's a contract in place. You kind of have to pay someone when that contract is in place. It doesn't matter if they're not doing well. Like, you can't just cut Taijuan Walker and be like, well, we've got all that money left. No.
Doesn't work that way.
You have to pay him to the end of his contract, unless there's something in there that stipulates that you don't, or he gets picked up by another team. Otherwise, if they had cut him 2 years ago, they would still have to pay him 2 years of that contract.
But even if another team picks up Nick Castellanos after he's released by the Phillies are still on the hook for that contract. He agrees to a whole new deal with whatever team signs him as a free agent at that point. So my point is that people aren't thinking about this third luxury tax enough and the kind of penalty that it actually does. It's not our money. I have no problem with them going over that kind of money. I'm just trying to live in the world that John Middleton and the Phillies are living in. They're not going to pay a guy that kind of money unless it's Aaron Judge. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not That's not in the realm of possibility. So I would love to see it. I truly would. I think Bo Bichette would be a tremendous addition to this team. I would like, what, let's put the odds. Like, I mean, what between 0 and 100% chance that that the Phillies signed Bo Bichette, I can't even get it above a 0. I really just can't.
Yeah, I was going to give it like a decimal point just for the sake of odds. But yeah, there's no other thing that would make me think this was actually something that could happen. It barely exists as is. It's just a John Heyman note at this point, and that's about as far as I expect it to go.
I'd give it 5% just because 5% is meaningless and it sounds like a real percent because it is, but it's really small. I mean, man, I would love for this to happen. I would love to be surprised by this happening. I mean, we've experienced these types of surprises as fans, but it's been a long time and it doesn't really happen that much anymore, at least on a scale as large as this. Like, this would be like middle of the night Klugh signing. I think if they landed Bichette, if they signed him, that would be, I think it would be that level because no one was expecting it. Everyone thought, going somewhere else. No one, the Phillies aren't willing to pay him, but here he is, gift wrapped for you just like a week before Christmas, so you can all celebrate with your new Klugh jerseys.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, and sorry, this sounds like it's not. Nick Castellanos had bigger star power when the Phillies acquired him than Jesus Luzardo had when they acquired him, right? Because when I think of this team's current era's surprise gets, those two guys are the first two that come to mind. And I just remember, and I know we brought it up last time, but I just remember that there was like a lot of excitement around Castellanos coming because of it being a surprise and because of him being the kind of player he is. And yeah, I watched the Blue Jays sign Okamoto this week and just started thinking they might be having the best winter of anybody in Major League Baseball. And it's part of it is because they're up there with the big spenders now. Their payroll is over $300 million. And I'm not going to come down on the Phillies for not spending. Like they're extending a lot of players, even if they're not bringing in new guys in the past few years for 10-year deals, but they are extending players and they are spending money to do that. And those are things that I think most of the time, I actually can't think of a guy we've said, no, don't extend him. We are always on this show saying, yes, extend them. So they are willing to spend, but they've just kind of lost that sexiness, I guess, to their deals where it's just not, I don't want to say it's not exciting to re-sign Kyle Schwarber because it is, but like a deal like this is on a different level in that there's a star player. He's out there. You're not super linked to him, and suddenly he's here. I think Liz is right. That hasn't happened for a really long time, and frankly, I'm not sure that's something you can expect from this front office anymore based on how they've conducted themselves the last 3 years.
Like, you want to think differently about old Diamond Dave because he came in pretty flashy, that he rested for an entire year, and then started doing some good things. And I remember that first trade deadline, how disappointed we all are. We all were, both at the time and then after it at the end of the season, when we looked at it and said that was a chance to do something big, and he didn't and blew it. And he's done more, but I think you're right. We were expecting a flashier Dombrowski doing a little bit more. And I have to wonder if he's shackled himself because this is just how people get as they get older. They think differently. He's, that kind of thing. Or if the Phillies are shackling him because he's got more than enough money to play with. And he's got a decent amount, like not amazing players to work with in the minors, but he's got some. And I have to wonder what has stopped him from doing that? Because I don't always think it's the players. I think the players out there, some of them have been exciting enough to do that for. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just wondering, like, there are players that fit that. Like, this is actually the best example of this. Bichette is a player that would fit the Phillies perfectly. This is a chance to get him that you will almost certainly will not have for years. And this would be the time to pick him up and do something like that. And if Dave doesn't, that says to me that this is just, I don't know. Like, I think the Phillies that's super, what do you think? Do you think Amara would have done something like this? Do you think Ruben Amaro Jr. would have done this?
I think he would have tried. I certainly think he would have run into the same financial constraints that I think Dave Dombrowski is dealing with. Now, when we talk about financial constraints, it's upper end financial constraints, but they don't want to choke on that 105% tax, I think, that they have to pay on salaries once they go over that third luxury tax number. And I think that I don't know who they would view as someone good enough to do that for, and so that's why I think we're seeing so many of these kind of marginal free agents that the team is having. And they are still, it sounds like, just trying to keep some money set aside for JT Realmuto. I think they really do expect to bring him back, but the more time goes on, it feels almost like it's less likely that it's going to happen. Although,
use that money for something.
Well, here's the thing, and I think the people who, if you do want to give Bo Bichette coming to the Phillies a slightly better than 0% chance, it would only come as if his market is not what anyone thinks it would be, which would be insane for a 27-year-old. But we've seen that in the last few off seasons, that guys take a 1-year deal or they take a 3-year deal with opt-outs, which the Phillies wouldn't do. They don't do opt-outs. But to try and re-hit the market, like Pete Alonso did that a year ago, right? He took a 1-year deal with the Mets, re-signed with the Mets, and then went back onto the market. My guess is if he does something like that, Bo Bichette would go back to the Blue Jays rather than, although, they just re-signed, they just signed Okamoto to a 4-year deal. So maybe that door has closed there. But I'm just looking, there's so many big free agents here on January 5th that are still out there. Bo Bichette, Kyle Tucker, Alex Bregman, Cody Bellinger, Framber Valdez, Ranger Suarez, Eugenio Suarez, even Harrison Bader and JT Realmuto are
the Pirates have interest in Eugenio Suarez, all right? So that's going to...
There's that.
The wheels are moving.
It's got to happen. Any moment now. So I would say, like, if one of those guys, if their market doesn't develop and they decide they want to try again after the collective bargaining agreement is all done, but next offseason is going to be an absolute zoo. I mean, nothing's going to happen. Everybody's going to sign.
There's no off season.
Right. It's all going to happen. In
there
the
won't
2
be an
weeks.
off season next year
for fans who want to. Right. Certainly not a typical one. There won't be winter meetings. There won't be GM meetings or anything like that. Any off-season transactions are all going to happen in like the 2 weeks before spring training, which will be fun for us. But it'll be a zoo. So my guess is these guys are all going to sign multi-year deals here at this offseason. If one of them doesn't, though, if one of them wants a 1-year deal, then maybe you could see the Phillies jump in as an opportunity cost here. But again, the Bo Bichette stuff just doesn't ring true to me. It certainly feels like the Phillies are once again, as they always are, being used.
If Ruben Amaro Jr. was running this show, the difference would be the John Hammond tweet would have read that they had a video call with him or met him in person. It would have gone a little further along than just one of the interested teams. I think there would, you'd know, it would be more aggressive language, like checked in or made calls.
I think that's true.
Mm-hmm. But also, nope, I forgot. I knew that was close to happening, and then it happened.
Yeah, it was.
Hey, listen, it doesn't just happen to me, kids. It does happen to other people on this podcast.
Right. Well, just on the note of the Phillies not signing people, the Phillies did not sign either of the 2 remaining stars from Japan. We were really hopeful, I think, maybe more than we should have been, that the Phillies would sign Imai, the young right-handed starter that ended up going to the Houston Astros. Instead, he takes a 3-year deal, which includes opt-outs after every season. So essentially, it's a series of 1-year deals. I've turned down, from the reporting, he turned down some multi-year deals, but at a lesser value than he was thinking he was worth. So it sounds like he has the option now to try and hit the market again next offseason or wait it out. So that's a very comfortable landing spot for Imai, and he goes to an Astros team, which still has some good players, can still probably win that division or compete for a wild card in the American League. The Phillies, as we know, as a policy, do not do opt-outs. So if that's what Imai was looking for, it's pretty clear why the Phillies were not able to land him. And it's unknown whether or not they were actually aggressive going after him. All the Japanese media kept linking the Phillies to Imai, but never really seemed to be any traction here in the States that the Phillies were seriously looking into him. Although the
Okamoto doesn't have any opt-outs, for the record.
What's that?
Okamoto didn't have any opt-outs in his deal.
No, he didn't. No, the Blue Jays signed Okamoto to a 4-year, $60 million deal. That's $15 million average annual value. But again, as I mentioned with Bichette, that makes him like a $30 million a year guy if the Phillies go over that third luxury tax. And I'm guessing the Phillies didn't see him as being worth that kind of money. At 30, I mean, it wouldn't be $30 million in terms of average annual value, but it would be in terms of real cash dollars the Phillies would be spending out to pay him over a 4-year deal. And, the Phillies do have Aiden Miller waiting in the wings. It's unclear if he's going to come to the majors this year. So if you're looking for a reason why the Phillies wouldn't go sign an infielder, it's because Aiden Miller is probably being groomed to take over for Alec Boehm when Alec Boehm leaves after this season, or they move some pieces around. I mean, you can always be creative, and I think that's one of the things we're a little bit frustrated with is there hasn't been any creativity with how to remake this roster. I know it's an inflexible roster. They've got a lot of big money guys on long-term deals and stuff, but it's just been I really thought if the Phillies were going to spend money, it would have been on a Japanese guy. And Justin, they didn't. They didn't spend on either guy. And I don't know that we'll ever know whether they made the kind of offer like they made to Yamamoto a couple of seasons ago. It doesn't seem like they did.
We may never know. And, whatever. But all that really matters is they didn't get them. Except I disagree with that thing I just said. That's not true. I think we did a lot of talking about this being a more likely scenario for the Phillies to sign a Japanese player, like really break through here. And that never meant they were definitely going to. It didn't even really mean necessarily that they were closer than before. Like maybe they were closer to signing Yamamoto than either of these guys. But of the players who signed this year, I think Imai is really the miss for the Phillies. I think that was an opportunity to improve your starting pitching better than what the options they're going to wind up looking for can do. Like this was an opportunity to get a 27-year-old coming off a career best year. And they have, we talked a lot about like being, how do you become a team that these guys come to, and the Phillies still have to break through. And while they didn't get any of these guys, it's not super surprising, but I do think they were closer perhaps than before they could have been. And I think in general, they're closer than ever before to signing these Japanese players. And like I said before about Imai, part of it has to come from the players' side of interest. And I think you're starting to see more players who are interested, maybe not in the Phillies specifically, but just in not the Dodgers. Right. Because, the guys we're talking about didn't go to the Dodgers. So that's a good sign for the Phillies in a lot of ways. So in the end, I'm encouraged, not surprised, but I do feel like Imai could have helped this team, and I'm hopeful for the future that they can get into this market with a little more success. And in the meantime, just keep mining Team Italy. And that's the Phillies. I love that. That's the Phillies. Like inroads are in Italy. Like that's awesome. So carve out your own space on the international stage, and start mining that. But ultimately. Disappointing they didn't get any of these guys. Not totally surprising, and I'm encouraged for the future.
What do you think, Liz, about the Japanese dudes going elsewhere? How we feeling better about where the Phillies stand in the market?
Yeah, I agree with Justin. I think it's a good thing that they went into it appearing to be a lot more serious than they were before last year, because they had been in on Yamamoto, and it looks like they're really trying to make more inroads. All they can do is keep trying. Eventually, if they keep working at it, something will hit if it's meant to hit. But, otherwise, they just have to keep trying.
I don't know what the ultimate number was, but from what I read, there were at least 6 teams with reported interest in Imai specifically. And, if it's less than 10, if the truth is it's less than 10 teams, then the Phillies being one of those teams is still a big deal, because there's 20 other teams that didn't even bother trying. So that, again, is a good sign for them in the future.
And I do think that $300 million plus offer they made to Yamamoto a couple of years ago, that might have gotten the Japanese market's attention. That, the Phillies are willing to dish out big money for the right guy. And it doesn't feel like the Phillies thought any of these guys were the right guy to go all in on and basically pay double for in this particular offseason.
Also, I'll just throw this in regards to Okamoto. He struggles hitting pitches over 94 miles an hour. And Major League Baseball, as you might know, has higher velocity than NPB, though he has improved on that particular quality in 2025, that is something that has kind of haunted him for a while, and the pitches are only going to get faster over in the United States. So
probably
something
something to think about. There's a reason. None of these three players, Murakami, Imai, and Okamoto, got the kinds of deals that people were expecting at the beginning of the offseason. They all took much less than anyone was expecting at the beginning of the offseason, which kind of makes it feel like a missed opportunity. But at the same time, it seems like everybody was kind of on the same page with not valuing these particular Japanese players as highly as Sasaki last year and Yamamoto the season before, where they were perceived to be elite players right from
Houston is viewed as kind of a surprise landing spot for Imai.
Yeah, definitely. All right, one last thing before we ask our final question. And the question I want to ask is, now that we're in 2026, I wanted us to describe in one word your current feeling about the Phillies. And I will lead into that by reading just a couple of paragraphs from an Athletic wrap-up. They're kind of looking at all of the important teams this year, this offseason, and where they are in the offseason at the moment. And Will Salmon and Ken Rosenthal put this article together, and they had two paragraphs on the Phillies. One of these days, the Phillies will get a resolution on free agent catcher JT Realmuto. A reunion still appears the most likely outcome, unless the Phillies want to trade for a catcher, such as Minnesota's Ryan Jeffers, or sign a free agent such as Victor Caratini. Elsewhere, the Phillies could use a right-handed bat to platoon in left field with Brandon Marsh, and Randall Grichuk is among those in whom they are showing interest. Oh boy. Signing Bregman, Bichette, or Tucker likely will be possible only if the market for one of those players collapses, which seems
That's what I forgot.
doubtful.
That's what I forgot. That Rosenthal said it would take a market collapse for the Phillies to be in on Bo Bichette.
Yeah. So that's where things stand for the Phillies
Real
right now. And I think that
positive.
isn't. Well, there's a little nugget of positivity there at the end of that little bit there, but Randall Grichuk, no. You know what? I'm not
If
the
only some cool genius in the last episode had gone through 1-year deals for outfielders over the last 3 years and determined based on wins above replacement which of them were the most valuable deals and the biggest contributors, and golly gee, right after Harrison Bader was Randall Grichuk and his 1.6 wins above replacement after getting his 1-year deal. So I am not personally surprised to learn this information.
And look, if they sign Grichuk, it'll be fine. It won't be for much. He's not going to be asked to do a whole lot. No,
It'll feel like it's 3 years ago.
Yeah,
a poor man's Rob Refsnyder.
Yeah, very poor. And for all that, I'm just like, you know what? Then just ride Otto Kemp. You know what I mean? I'm not even the big Otto Kemp guy, but I'm willing to give Otto Kemp those at bats over Randall Grichuk. And if Kemp's a disaster against left-handed pitching, then fine. At the trade deadline, get yourself another platoon. Listen, Grichuk's going to be available at the trade deadline, no matter who he signs with. I mean, there's just he's universally available at the trade deadline. That's just how it goes.
268 with an 819 OPS career-wise for batting against lefties.
Yeah,
is that good enough for you for a platoon partner?
He can hit lefties.
Man, it's amazing how great that sounds.
Yeah, it would be good. It would be good. So would Austin Hayes, and Miguel Andujar is still out there. Really good right-handed hitters against
Austin
lefties.
Hayes
Those
doesn't
options
come back.
are still out there, and my guess is those. I don't think he does either, but I'm not closing the door on a reunion. They brought David Robertson back. I mean, I'm not closing the door.
But that's different.
Austin
He
Hayes
actually
never got a
liked
fair
being
shake here
in Philly.
because of the injury. I
The
don't think
jokes
Austin
about the physical Austin Hayes would have to pass to re-sign with the Phillies would be an all-day activity.
Yes.
That's what I'm
Put your
thinking.
kidney dance for us, Austin.
Yeah.
He can't have a lot of great memories considering he had a kidney issue while he was here.
How are
David
your other
Robertson
internal
loved it here.
organs faring? You're going to need to see your lungs move. Anyway.
At the beginning, I think it was at the beginning of one of those Yellowstone spinoffs where they showed immigrants coming into the United States, in the early years, and they showed the process they went through to check their health. And so you're watching people get they're just getting aggro, things jam down their throat, hold your breath, and then somebody punches them in the stomach, and that's the process that Austin Hayes has to go through.
All right, his spleen is good. Very well.
It's good. We just punched it real hard. He's still alive.
Yeah, it felt pretty good on my fist.
We're going to shove this long metal hook down your throat, and we're just going to excise a small piece of your esophagus just to make sure,
Poor
Everything's
Austin Hayes,
fine.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't blame him for having a kidney infection at all. It obviously just defined his time here, and I'm sure it sucked. So that,
well, let's see a sequel.
all sympathy, but
Let's see a sequel. Let's bring him back. So after hearing that, I want to get a vibe check heading into 2026. And one of my resolutions is not to use the word vibe to talk about the Phillies or describe the Phillies at all for the rest of the season. So I'm going to get it out of the way now. Vibe check right now, your current feeling about the Phillies. I'll go first, just to give you guys a minute to think. I think right now, the word I would most use to describe it is disheartened a little bit. I was, for the second offseason in a row, hoping to see a little bit more creativity, hoping to see a little bit more change, hoping to see... I'm just of the opinion, I'm not sure these guys will be able to pull themselves out of the rut that they're in the playoffs, this group together, the combined psychology of it all. There's so much pressure on their shoulders now. I really wanted to see some new life brought into the clubhouse to try and change things up a little bit. And listen, I know Adolis Garcia is going to be, a breath of something when he comes in there. But man, that is a clubhouse that is locked in place, and all those guys and all those personalities. That a clubhouse isn't changing because one guy comes in here and he's a little bit different. So I don't know. I'm disheartened that the Phillies have not as yet been able to do more to make things differently. But they were a really good team last year in the regular season. They won the division by 13 games. I keep forgetting that. They won by 13 games over the Mets. I think the Mets and Braves are going to be better, so I don't think you can just stand pat and think you're going to do that again. But I think that's where I am right now. Disheartened would be the word that I would use about 2026. I still think they're good. Just, I don't know that they're better than they were a year ago. And that's what you kind of want to see. You wanted to see them get a little bit better. All right, who wants to go next?
I can go next. Unless you want to, Dustin, a whole lot.
feel free.
I went through a number of words trying to figure out what I wanted. One was April. Can't wait till we get there. That's when I'll be the most interested in what the Phillies are doing. Or at least, not interested, but I'll at least have the full picture will be there. And it's always annoying to try and figure out what they're doing without everything together. I thought about the word yacht, since that's what John Middleton is certainly concerned with. I'm going to guess, considering he doesn't want to spend any more money, despite telling us, no, I really want to win. But I ended up going with the word meh. I haven't felt, the Kyle Schwarber signing was great. We're all happy, and we're glad that he's not going anywhere. But that isn't like a big change, because he was here last year. And you look at all the moves they've made, and I'm just meh. Like, show me something more. Like, there are teams out there being incredibly creative, and it's frustrating. Just like you said, John, it's frustrating to see them just not take advantage of that, especially with a guy that we know can be that way. Or, as I was saying earlier, maybe the world of baseball, President Baseball Ops has passed him by a little bit. That's something I don't know if we've talked about, considering what some teams are doing and what Dombrowski's doing. I think he made some good decisions last year, but when we look at the way this team is going, I think if things go badly at some point this year, we have to ask ourselves, where are we going with Dombrowski? What are,
We kind of addressed that last week a little bit, didn't we, Justin? And
I wasn't here, so.
Yeah, right. No, I know. That's why I'm informing you.
Sick.
I'm informing
Thanks
you.
for listening, Liz.
Yeah.
You have to understand, I don't listen to this podcast. I can't listen to the sound of my own voice.
I think we understand more than ever.
I'm on this podcast most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to real quick ask a question I meant to ask earlier. So Preston Mattingly is the general manager, which I had to remind myself, who's the general manager? Secondly, are they still doing the Sam Fold got some books and sent off to Penn to learn how to be an executive, and then he's going to come back, and that's whole thing that's still going on. Okay,
that's still going on. Yeah,
you just made me think about the future of that.
Yeah.
So I'd actually, before I give my word, I want to go do a quick exercise where let's literally just break down the good things that have happened for the Phillies in the offseason and the bad things. And you guys can add to this list after I've read what I came up with. But the good is obviously Kyle Schwarber getting extended. The acquisition of Brad Keller was a good thing. Mm-hmm. Potentially better outfield defense. That's a good thing. And it is part of, despite the shortcomings of what's going on in the outfield, there is a higher defensive floor, I think, than there was before. Justin Crawford getting his chance. Finally getting, didn't see him, kept waiting to see him maybe last year, didn't see him. Seems like he's a big part of the plan moving forward. Moving on to the bad. Salary dumped Matt Strahm. Still needs starting pitching help. Didn't get any of the Japanese players. Harper's entered his wackadoo era. Went with another project in right instead of a proven commodity. And here's the big one for me, and I think for everyone. Jason Stark was quoting someone the other day saying on December 31st, baseball feels so much farther than it feels on January 1st. And he's right. Pitchers and catchers report in like 6 weeks. And so I think the Phillies haven't re-signed JT Realmuto is almost too narrow of a way to look at that situation. The Phillies don't have a starting catcher. They have catchers, Garrett Stubbs, Rafael Marchand, that guy with the long last name they just signed who has 11 games of Major League Baseball experience, but they don't have an everyday catcher. And now I don't know if you caught this, but catchers are one of the 2 types of players who report when pitchers and catchers report. And right now, with that group, there would be 290 games of MLB experience showing up in Clearwater. If JT Realmuto were to join them, that number jumps to 1,663. He's also bringing the catching pedigree that he has, which I would say is also important. So despite Rosenthal saying this morning that it's still the most likely outcome, I think there is a greater non-zero chance than with Schwarber that this doesn't pan out. And that there are no great options to replace him. But even the passable ones are starting to disappear. And in a wider sense, even if you lose JT Realmuto but land Ryan Jeffers or something, well, you got some more offense to find somewhere else. And you've already done what you planned to do in the outfield. So what's up, man? What's next? We're going to have to force yourself to get creative in the way we keep saying we're not really seeing right now. So I remain curious about what the contingency plan looks like for not getting JT Realmuto, truly. And not even in a totally negative way. I'm kind of like, if it happened, I would be like, all right, I'm excited to see what they do next. Let's take this out for a spin. But the longer this goes on, the more constricted you are in your ability to maneuver in that scenario, looking for a new catcher, looking for more offense. So the word I'm choosing to describe the Phillies offseason is making me uncomfortable. I am not comfortable
That's a good
with
one.
this team right now.
Yeah,
You're totally right, Justin. Like, the longer the Realmuto thing goes on, the more concerned I am, because them waiting for him to sign has screwed them out of pretty much any other way of dealing with things other than signing some guy no one knows or dealing with one of the 250 games of experience they have. Like, that's... Like, if they get taken by surprise by this, that's a fireable offense. I'm sorry. That's a fireable offense for Dombrowski. No, like, if his backup plan is Marchand, that's not a backup plan. That's not a backup plan unless you have signed someone else with Realmuto's money. And once we get to the point, if Realmuto doesn't sign in the next week or so, no one's going to be left. I mean, maybe there'll be some, but no one to the point that has as good of a fit as Bichette. No one else out there is really the perfect fit for the Phillies. And so they're going to have this money. And what are they going to do with it? Maybe they'll save it, but maybe they'll feel compelled to sign someone that also just isn't a great fit, just to have someone else on the team who can hit baseballs. And that's not what any of us want. Like, I'm now very concerned. I didn't even think of it that way, Justin. Holy crap.
Yeah.
What if they don't get Realmuto?
No!
And you just reminded me, like, oh, all this money they're putting aside for him, they'd still have that. So, like,
Yeah, they
that's
would.
cool. But part of that was salary dumping Matt Strahm. So it's like, can you just tell Matt Strahm, hey, fail your physical real quick because we didn't need to salary dump you anymore. Come on,
yeah,
come on back,
like-
make this bullpen that much better.
Here's the thing. The salary dump money went to Keller. Like, we all thought, well, maybe they're dumping because it happened after they signed Brad Keller. We thought, okay, maybe they're clearing up money for the next move. I don't think that's what they were doing. I think they were clearing. I think they're creating more payroll space for the Brad Keller edition. And that's...
Or for John Middleton's 13th house.
I also think there's something to the idea of Strahm not being on the team if Realmuto is coming back because,
that was funny to think about, but
those are two very different guys.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the JT Realmuto drama drags on, though, doesn't it? I mean,
God.
Yeah.
Why? It's like there's always drama surrounding him, but how? Because he never speaks.
I'll tell you what. If they don't get Realmuto, and then Dombrowski comes out the next week and is like, here's my 3-team trade that gets the Phillies Edgar Caro, that catcher from the White Sox I love. All this stuff about creativity,
Yes.
I'm good.
Yes. I just don't think there's any chance he has. That was what my discussion last week was. I don't know that he can pull that off anymore. And that's why, like, what does he bring to the table right now as the GM? You know, maybe. Yeah. And I hope I'm wrong about that, or the president of baseball operations. You know, I don't see him making that kind of move.
Do you think there's one of these signs, the kind of new element that we're talking about in regards to Dombrowski, is that perhaps it feels like he's really only been making deals with the same 3 to 4 teams, which might indicate that's where he still has people he contacts with regularly and he's comfortable dealing with. He's made, I think, more than one deal with the Tigers. He's made a couple of deals with the Orioles. You know, like there's maybe the
Angels.
The sphere of influence is just perhaps
smaller than it was.
Yeah,
that's what I kind of meant. I wanted to bring that up because we've been very generous, I think, to Dombrowski over the years because
he's a Hall of Famer.
He's a Hall of Famer. He was a very good general manager. He continues to be, you know, I would say probably near the top. But like this is letting something like that happen is a sign that it's all passed you by a little bit.
No.
And I really wanted to bring that up because this year, I think, is going to be the time we have to start talking about Dombrowski and whether he is the best general manager for the Phillies going forward or president of baseball ops. I think we've given him, 4 years? 5 years?
5.
5. And so I think it's time we start talking about whether or not he's the right guy to keep going with. Because I don't know if he is. If we have to see what happens this offseason, but I don't know if he's the right guy to take the Phillies where they want to go.
Well, on that cheery note, let's finish up
Dear
the
Lord.
It's not a wrong thought either, by the way. It's totally 100% what I've been thinking over these last few weeks as I've been disappointed with the offseason. But we will wrap up the podcast here with some final thoughts. Justin, any final thoughts before we go?
You can just go back and listen to our Dirty Inning Holiday episode if you've still got holiday spirit left in your head. And if not, we've got a couple more episodes coming this month over at the Hidden Season Patreon. And as we said at the beginning, Summer of the Cheap Wieners, my book about the 1941 Phillies and what they were doing during Joe DiMaggio's 56-game hit streak, will be out in February. So you can pre-order now on the Brookline Books website.
There you go. And it's patreon.com/hidden season if you want to listen to The Dirty Inning and absolutely hammer it. That's where you go to do that. Liz, final thoughts?
The Baseball Research Journal is out officially. You can find it on the internet. You can find it on Amazon, Apple Books, probably other places too, but those are the places I get emails from. And you can order it for $19.99 or $9.99. If you are a SABR member, if you're a SABR member, you already get it for free. And you also get access to the online version. And of course, we are always accepting articles or pitches. Please go to sabr.org/publications and you will find all the instructions you need to submit an article or a piece or whatever you'd like to the Baseball Research Journal. I am the editor now, and so I get to decide what goes into it. So I'm open to pretty much anything. Please send me some offbeat stuff. It does have to involve research because research is in the name of the journal. But we want all sorts of interesting stuff from people, stuff about actual statistics, or we have one guy right now writing an article about the most number of fielders at one position in one game and the history of that, which is,
all right.
That's research that no one's doing and that people might not, think of a lot, but someone might need that down the road. And why not have it out there?
Why not? I love
Express your baseball love through writing.
There you go. All right. So contact Liz for that again. At Liz
Learn how to
Roscher.
make offhanded Gene Mock references to thrill your friends.
That's right.
To thrill four exactly of your friends.
You never know when you're going to need it in a job interview, folks.
Seriously.
So look, it's something that you might, it's one of the tools in your tool belt. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for this edition of Hittin' Season. And I want to encourage you all, if you are not listening to the podcast, I mean, if you want to watch the podcast, if you're listening to the podcast, you're listening to it. But if you want to watch the podcast, all of our off-season podcasts, all of our roundtable podcasts are over at the WHYY YouTube channel. So just subscribe to the WHYY YouTube channel and you can see all the Hittin seasons there. And of course, we are on all of the audio podcast formats, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever it is you get your podcast. Tell your friends and family about Hittin season. We're taking you through this Phillies offseason day by day, week by week, step by step as JT Realmuto watch continues unabated. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time right here on Hittin season.